Hi, this is Ken Adams, and welcome to City Beat. And this week I'm joined by Mayor Chuck Bennett and Salem Deputy Chief Steve Bellshaw. And we're going to be talking about the new police facility bond. It's going to be on the May 16th ballot, which is coming up. I just got my pamphlet today.
Great.
So maybe you can tell us what's different about this ballot measure as opposed to the one that failed in November.
The most noticeable difference is this ballot measure is for $20 million less. In November, the request was for $82 million. This one is $61.8 million in bond. The primary difference, the November ballot measure included a new 911 center, an emergency communications center, as well as being built out for about a 50-year growth period in the department and really in the city. This one made some different assumptions. It's built more on 30 years of growth and does not include the 911 center, so it is a smaller building without what is a very expensive communications center, and that really accounted for quite a bit of the savings. And that would probably be the biggest difference. On a $200,000 home, it's about $4.33 a month. And if you're interested in your own home, there is a spot on the city website, a calculator on the city website where you can go and actually go to your own home, click it, and it'll pop up how much you're paying. You would pay monthly for this particular bond to create a modern police center in Salem.
And this measure, there was some discussion earlier about including the library retrofit, but that has been moved to the November ballot.
Right. The council looked at that, and I think looked at it very carefully, and really determined that with bonds like this, particularly when you have one aimed specifically at an emergency service and preserving an emergency service through any catastrophe, as well as through time for growth, that really we should confine the discussion to that. And then we agreed to put a small ballot measure, bond measure on the ballot in November to bring the library up to a seismic retrofit. And so that will be coming out in November rather than putting the two together.
Yeah, I guess I saw things a little bit differently because I know a lot of people love the library, and I think they would have been even more supportive if they had been combined.
That's not been our experience.
But that was my take on it.
Yeah, that's not been our experience with ballot measures, particularly those involving, and understand we had one a few years ago, the police and kids ballot measure that failed. We found really that people, when you deal with the police, or you deal with the library, people like to have a fairly discrete understanding of what they're paying for. And this really made the most sense to the council.
Well, Deputy Chief Bellshaw, can you give us a description of your current facilities? Now, I went to the police academy last spring, and so I got a pretty good feel for just how small it was.
Right.
But maybe you could give a little bit more description, because I think a lot of people have not been to the police facility that we currently have, and maybe you could explain what improvements we'll see.
Sure, absolutely. So for those that have not been to the police facility, one of the things we've tried to do with this bond measure that we didn't do last time is we've made a video. So it's a 3-minute tour of some of the challenges we face every day. And so police can go to, or people can go to the city's website, and when you see the sketch of the new proposed facility, if you click on that, you'll see the video, or you can see it on our Salem Police Facebook page, and so that will give folks an idea. But
do you have one of your current facilities so that you could show them
yes.
what it's like dealing with it now?
So that's exactly what it does. So it shows what challenges our detectives face, what challenges the sergeants face. The challenges, you went through the Citizens Academy, so just the fact that the first night when you went there, you found that our building is not very welcoming. It's hard to find, and so we really would like to see a police center that has a nice area where people can pull up when they're looking for help and get out and walk right in a front door. If you're being chased by your ex-boyfriend and he's following you, you really don't want to pull into an underground parking lot and get out and make a run up the stairs to try
Because
and
you'd have to probably go past him to get to it.
Absolutely. And so those are some of the challenges we face. We have folks sharing desks, so they're fighting for desk space. We have one room, which is our debriefing room, that is about a 500 square foot room. So at 8 o'clock you have a graveyard shift coming off shift. You have the school resource officers in the back of the room, and in the center of the room you have our graffiti abatement folks. So between 7:30 and 8:30 you can have as many as 30 people filing in and out of that room because we don't have separate office space for all of those folks.
And I remember being in there, and I believe it's smaller than this studio.
It is. It is.
Which is the small studio here at the CCTV.
The other thing that is tough to describe, but is the inefficiency of that building, and that you have officers that are having to walk from one end of the building to the other to get equipment and to get changed and things like that, and all of those things add up to less time on the street for those officers. So we believe in some of our research things like we've looked at other SWAT teams in the Oregon area that have all of their equipment stored in one location and have locker rooms for their SWAT teams, and their response times are about 20 minutes less than ours.
20 minutes less?
Yeah. So we believe a new building could help us in those emergency responses to get to people quicker. And if you're the person that's in that hostage situation or where a person has a gun at you, that 20 minutes can be an eternity. Even 5 minutes can be an eternity for you. And so having those efficiencies where we can respond more quickly. A new building, even if it could save our officers 10 minutes a day in time they spend in the station, and you add that up by 30 officers a day over 365 days, that's a lot more time that we could have officers on the street instead of in the station.
In the building.
Yeah. And so all of those things add up to benefit the citizens of Salem, because you want your officers out on the street, not in the building trying to work around some of the inefficiencies of the building.
And one of the problems that you have too is that not all your facilities are in that building.
Correct.
There's sometimes considerable distance to, like, I believe the crime lab?
The crime lab for us, because the building was built in 1972, so in order to meet OSHA standards, we would have had to bring that portion of the building up to that code, which was really cost prohibitive. So now our crime lab is co-located with the wastewater treatment plant out north of Kaiser. So every day I have an intern that's transporting evidence from the station 7 miles to Kaiser and then bringing evidence 7 miles back. And so, and then my detectives aren't able to talk to my crime lab folks to have a face-to-face conversation, which doesn't help us when we're trying to solve crimes.
Or try to understand certain things.
Absolutely.
Because you'll get a report, but that's not the same as talking to someone, because a lot of times you can pick up other information when you're having that back and forth.
Right. And folks don't realize it's really important for us to have that crime lab, as you know, because our fingerprint and crime lab folks work for us, and so we set their priorities. So if in your neighborhood you have a rash of burglaries, and we send patrol officers out and CSOs out and they take fingerprints, we can tell our crime lab folks, stop what you're doing and let's focus on this. And we can identify that burglar within a day or 2 days or a short period of time. other agencies that are having to rely on the State Police Crime Lab, which is a great crime lab, but they're providing service for the whole state. Their turnaround time can be anywhere from 4 to 6 months to get those fingerprint results back. So it's important for us, and it's important for you as a citizen, for us to have those crime lab facilities here in our building and here in the city of Salem, so that we can solve crimes much more quickly.
Chuck, one of the things that kind of bothered me was this May election. That's going to be a low voter turnout election. 20-25% has been kind of the average over the last few years. And it's usually a more conservative people voting on those elections. So I was wondering how you're going to approach getting this bond measure passed politically.
Politically? Number one, it's an excellent measure. It's desperately needed. It's a serious problem for a city our size to have the level of inadequacy and inefficiency we have in our police department, as Deputy Chief Bellshaw described. I think more than anything, the message is extremely clear what the problem is. The price is right. The facility is a working 365-day a year facility that never closes. And we will take that message out to the voters. Voters in May primaries, and to some extent in the general, but more so in May, are voters who follow city issues very closely. They tend to be 3 or 4 out of 4 voters. It's a way of measuring voter participation. These are very active, very interested voters in city elections who come out to vote at a time like this. That kind of voter is going to be the kind of voter that I think will understand the limitations of the current facility, the need to support people who risk their lives every day for us, and will be willing to go out and vote for it.
One of the issues that's kind of come up is the cost per square foot. And I was at a city council meeting where that was discussed. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that issue, because I believe it's about $520 roughly a square foot for the new facility.
I think that these numbers become mixed. They're confusing. Okay, what's a hallway count? What's a useful square footage? There's a whole bunch of pieces there. And what is a modern police facility? It is a safe place for the police to work in an environment that I think we're all understanding has its risks for police officers. It's a place you and I go where we do not want to risk our lives when we've gone into the police department to talk to them. So it's a very special kind of building, plus it's being built to a very high seismic standard. So sort of if the big one hits, we will have police officers, we will have fire department in place. So it is generally expensive, but we've done an analysis that indicates there is really a de minimis difference between what this police department costs, what a new police department in Beaverton costs, what a new police department in some other part of the country costs. These have a fairly standard price tag. $520 I think is a little high. I think it's more in the high 400s per square foot, but those are the kinds of numbers I think that really don't reflect on the quality of the building and its importance to the community.
And one of the things that I've seen with, actually the Salem Police Department has a very good reputation.
It's one of the best in the country,
and,
we believe.
Yeah. And
we really do.
And Chief Moore, I think on that first day of the police academy, was saying, we meet people on their worst days.
Yeah.
And that's not just for the criminals, it's also for the victims too. And I seem to recall that when I was in the facility, the detectives have this room where they're interviewing people and potential criminals, and the room is very small and very flimsy. And
yes.
And I think one of the police officers mentioned that somebody had climbed up into the roof
Yeah.
because it was easy to do.
Right. So again, in 1972, this was built, City Hall was built as an office building. It really wasn't built as a police station. Now in 72, there was a jail in the back part of that building. So anybody that wasn't going with the program went back to the jail. Now that jail only operated for about 2 or 3 years. So that left us with basically an office building and nowhere to put people. So we have had people, it's a building that was designed with drop ceiling with acoustic tiles, and so we've had bad guys try and climb up in the ceiling, so we've had to take measures to keep that from going. Then they've tried to kick through the sheetrock to try and get out that way, and so we've had to take measures that way. So as Mayor Bennett said, if we're building a police station, we're not building an office building, we're building a place where we can hold people and make sure they're not getting out, and that we can keep them separate from victims. In your average office building, you build a public bathroom and people go in and use it. We need to build bathrooms where we're the ones that flush the toilets, so people don't put drugs down the toilet and try and keep us from finding them, or flush other things down the toilet. And so there are different things that we have to control, and those are our specialized costs. And again, this is a building that will never close from the day it opens, and so a building like that takes more wear and tear than a building that closes at 5 and has no one in it on weekends. We have people in and out every day, all hours of the day and night.
So you don't have a jail cells now, so where do
Correct.
they go?
Well, someone has to watch them. So we have them in an interview room, but you can't leave them alone because
So then at some point, if you have to take them to jail, you take them out to the facility off
Almsville Highway. Yeah.
Almsville Highway.
Yeah.
And so now you're losing time taking them out there
Correct.
and bringing them back if you need them.
Yeah.
All in all, pretty inefficient.
Yes, but I mean, that just points out that what the problem is. And I think the video you were talking about before, showing what we currently have in place and what the new police facility will look like, I think that would be very helpful for more people to see.
Yeah, it is interesting. You know, the other thing that doesn't always get mentioned, we have very expensive police cars. For those of us who deal on budget committees, we're aware of that. Our police cars, a portion of our equipment is really not secured over at City Hall. It's just sitting in the parking lot you and I use.
Yeah.
And it's, well, the chief the other day was talking about that, and he reminded me of a story I'd forgotten, which was where a fella had decided to use a pipe bomb on his wife, and one of his diversions when he did this was to put it under 2 police cars, which you can he could easily do, because you can get access to our vehicles. I mean, this is we need a secure place for our cars, a safe place for police officers to move back and forth with their equipment. They are moving around in City Hall with all of their equipment. This is just good modern policing in a city of 165,000 people.
So where was the police facility before it went to?
It was on the corner of Church and Chemeketa, as I recall, in the old City Hall, where there's a parking lot next to the old Wells Fargo building. It's all the old something. There's a plaque there that commemorates. But I remember when I came to Salem in the mid-'60s, the police department was there. The only remnant of it is if you visit, which people should visit the police department and see for themselves where this is in City Hall and the conditions there. And I know Deputy Chief Bellshaw, the chief of police, any of the officers will take folks on a tour of that building. there was a blue, I remember it really clearly, it was a blue neon police sign. Well, that blue neon police sign is still there. That's all that's left of the old station.
So I think this is going to be a very close election, though, again. So what are you doing to try to swing the votes your way? What kind of campaign?
Well,
Because-
we're out with you
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah.
I was earlier at a neighborhood group. I think each of us are out on a regular basis talking with citizens face to face. At the same time, we have a campaign that will rely on tradition campaign tactics. There are lawn signs that say yes for police, which is what we believe this is about. It's about our police department. And we will have mail that will come to people's doors explaining the campaign. We have television advertising that will go up. We will talk to almost any group, any single person. In fact, it's hard to, as you can tell, shut us up when we get talking about this. And that has been the kind of campaign we've got. There'll be door to door. It will be a full-blown campaign.
So you have a television campaign, so that's going to be going on the Portland stations?
No, it goes on cable.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, there's cable packages that you buy that really give you great penetration and,
Into
really
Salem
good targeting.
itself.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Comcast will sell you, as you know.
I don't get Comcast anymore for other reasons.
Okay.
Actually, one of the reasons was because I wanted an actual landline. So if there is a problem, I can call out, because quite often my cable television would go down as well as my phone.
Yeah.
And I just didn't think that was the way to go myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you talk about safety, and to me, if you're in a situation like that, I'm sorry, I want a phone that works.
Sure.
Good. I bet you want a police department that works too, don't you?
Well, I mean, like I said earlier, the Salem Police Department has a good reputation.
it does.
And that happened before I even went to the police academy.
Yeah.
And I've known of some people that live in the Portland area who are so upset about their police department and the way that they behave. And, I've said this a few times, not just here, but other places, that it starts at the top. The police chief, the deputy chief are the ones that set the tone for the entire department. And that is reflected in how the community sees them.
They set a great tone, and they also have established policies, procedures, and training, I think, that have resulted in a department that from top to bottom believes in their code of service, of integrity, and of real respect for the people that they're dealing with, which is you and me and everyone that's watching this show, that we're treated with the kind of respect we deserve, as well as a real understanding that when we talk to the police, and particularly if something really negative, if someone's gotten into your home or you've been attacked or something's been taken from your yard, it really is your worst day. These really are not times you need to have someone give you a hard time, and this is just a really great police department. We don't have the kind of problems we hear about from other places. I am just proud to be in any way associated with this group of people. They make us all look very good.
One of the things that I was interviewing various city council candidates for last spring for the election, and one of the things that kind of popped up was a lot of people were talking about precincts in their communities. And I'd like to point out to them that actually in Sacramento what they did, instead of having built a precinct in these areas and like that, is they opened up storefronts because there'd be a lot of vacant stores and strip malls and things like that, where they could have an office, people could come down and do the report there, because it sometimes is a problem getting into downtown for some folks. And I thought that was a particularly effective way of doing things out to the community. I know that there's talk about, we have all these officers out there in police cars and that's their office, but I think the public sometimes perceives the fact that if they can go into an actual building and talk to someone, they feel more comfortable about it. So I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that was a very successful way.
We've looked at that. We don't believe we're quite big enough yet to entertain that. If we open storefronts or precincts, there is an expectation that they will be manned by a staff member. Over the last 10 years, we've experienced some budget cuts, as has the whole city, so staff is at a premium. So, for instance, right now, our records section is the only police record section that's open 24/7, and I can staff that with 2 people, because you have to provide for breaks and other things like that. If I have a precinct, then I have to have 4 records people on. I have to have 2 at one location and 2 at another location, or I have to have, during the day shift, I have to have 3 at one location and 2 at another location, where I can maybe get by with 4 at this location. So it's a matter of trying to, what can we do most efficiently and economically, and still provide good service to the citizens of Salem. And again, folks know where City Hall is and know where we're located, so folks come down. We have online reporting. We have, and we'll always send an officer out to take a report if they can't come see us. So.
Yeah, well, I wanted to bring it up because I heard that several times when I was interviewing.
We've seen attempts. I recall one, I think, out on Hawthorne, and it was just difficult to staff. And I guess I'd suggest take a look at some of the cities with extensive precinct plans and tell me that's a better police department, better serving its people than our current configuration. When the time comes and we're big enough and have enough revenue to support it, we will look at it on the recommendation of the police department, where we are going to rely on the professional judgment of, again, a leadership in that department that we think has got a real handle on how to do an outstanding job as a police department.
Well, Mayor and Deputy Chief, I want to thank you for coming in and explaining about the new police facility ballot, and hopefully we'll see it pass and then we can start working on actually building a police facility and then maybe retrofitting City Hall at some point down the line, which also needs to be done as soon as possible.
Well,
but
every building in Salem needs retrofitting right now.
Well, I'm sure mine does. Mine's over 100 years old.
So I am too. So
but I mean, the thing
exciting.
is that the police have to be out so that we can fix City Hall as well.
Yeah, the police need to be out because we need to have a police department in place for emergency services.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And this has been City Beat, and join us next time.